And is that something that DOT says it's fine, or NYSEG, or whomever?
Yeah, I actually reached out and had some communication with NYSEG, and they confirmed that they are indeed pipe and trench construction, and that is designed and related for highway building.
Okay.
Without making anybody uncomfortable, just for the edification of anyone who's watching our stream, if departments are going to talk, we'll be on too much, ask them to step to the podium. That way it'll be recorded. And since we're on you, I guess
Are we online?
we're on live. Right, I just started it just a minute ago.
Okay.
Okay, so NYSEG says the gas lines are rated for...
Gas lines are rated for highway loading, should not present a problem.
Okay. So, also, I want to follow up on an email that Joshua sent regarding the steps at Champlain Monument going down there, some kind of erosion.
Yes.
I've had some constituents ask me about that too.
Yeah, there's definitely some problem areas down there. We do have in our 5-year capital plan for next year, 2017, a $50,000 capital project for improvements. Mike and Mike from Public Works took a look at it, and I think apparently it's grown big enough that maybe it's maybe a little too big of a project for Public Works. So next year we'll see if we can do something about that.
Okay. Great.
And I mentioned Daly Avenue, is somebody going to look into that, the steps?
Yeah, the steps, yeah, in fact, there's a couple of cases around the city like that. One is on Prospect, and there's one other I can think of. There's one on Prospect with the steps and the sidewalk, of course, Hamilton.
Yeah.
Bailey.
Yeah,
And then Bailey is the
Yeah.
one we're talking
Oh, yeah.
about.
It's really steep, that's all I say.
Prospect has gone to a ramp, I think, has it not?
I think there's, you might be, double check that. I think there's still one with a stair.
Well, maybe, but I know one went to a ramp.
Given the timing of it, what I would like to, what I have done, is refer that to our ADA self-evaluation experts, who, by the way, I just did the kickoff meeting this week, or last week with Dominic.
Okay.
And I'd like to get his opinion. I have some thoughts. My thought is that, the way we handled Hamilton Street was that there's an accessible route on the other side of the road. So those are okay to remain in place the way they are. But given the timing, because we do have this, self-evaluation, we're just now commencing.
Okay,
I'd like to see what his opinion is. on
that'd be
that.
great.
Yeah, so.
That's all, it's in your hands, I don't have a problem, I just wanted to
Yeah,
check.
and, it was great timing in that sense, because I was able to take that and a couple others and package them up and say, hey,
Okay,
give us your guidance on this too.
very good.
Okay, so I guess we'll go to the sidewalk and street report, and if you wouldn't mind doing a recap of what's going on with Lorraine, since this is streaming and there might be folks who
Absolutely.
would like
Glad
to hear about that.
So let's see, Lorraine is in the capital budget for 2016. We did the survey on it last year in 2015. We've completed the design for it. During the design investigation, it became apparent that some very, very old water line should probably be replaced right now, even though we don't have a significant break history, which is probably why it didn't create red flags during the initial, planning. And so we're ready to, design is done, and we do have adding about 500 feet of water line replacement. So the scope has grown a little bit, and also it does require going under the railroad tracks. So what we'll do is we'll take a larger steel casing pipe and jack it under, and then lay the water main through that. So the complexities is slightly increased. Plus we have to get permitting this time of year, since there's not an urgent need to get it done now versus in the spring. I think we can get significantly better bid prices. If we bid it in the off-season, when contractors are calmed down and planning out their next year, they always like to have a kickoff project to jump in on early so they have something planned.
Good.
They usually will give you a pretty nice price that time of year.
So we'll get that, that'll be the first project.
Right.
Because the
Yes.
folks in Lorraine have really, yeah.
Yes, and also, we already made arrangements for the budget adjustment to that, and what I propose is to use CHIPS funding, so the increased scope of work shouldn't cost any more to the city general fund.
Great. Is this one of those instances, as with other pipes, where the pipes will not be removed, but the new pipes will be laid down there? Because I know that that was an issue on South Plattsburgh because of asbestos, something with the pipes.
We don't have asbestos piping.
Yeah,
The
well,
other
So-
issue too is when we're going to put a new main in, there may be a potential to have a few lead goosenecks in the service lines that feed the houses. So that will, take care of that problem.
normally, the approach is to abandon the old line in place, and part of the reason for that is to minimize the disruption to neighbors. So we can have two live lines, we can switch over the services while they're both live, and then once everything's switched over, then we can kill the old one, and abandon, decommission it, abandon it. Yeah. And, you know, we plug the ends so that we don't get soil piping and, you know, create sinkholes. So certain measures we take to make sure that that doesn't create a problem down the road.
Okay, great. So if you'd like to present to us any of the rest of your sidewalk street report, that would be great.
Sure, we can do that. The Fort Brown and Sandra are the next street projects up for work. We just actually had a pre-construction meeting today. You should see, you'll see some layout starting this week, some saw cutting and curb excavation, starting with Sandra next week, and then shortly after Fort Brown. The Hamilton is, of course, completed. Lorraine, we talked about, and that will basically wrap up the work for this current year. Very shortly, we'll be talking about plans for next year, and I'll bring a proposal for, you know, a prioritized listing of, you know, of what streets that, you know,
So basically Lorraine was the only one that's not able to be completed in this year.
yes.
And also, I might add that there is a prioritized list. A lot of people are not familiar with that and making statements that there might not be certain areas, but we have a plan. People need to know that, and I appreciate it being on live streaming so people know that there is one.
Yeah, and, you know, I think it's maybe worth noting too that, you know, when you talk about, you know, the main streets, the arterial streets, the heavily traveled streets, you know, US Route 9, the south entrance to the city, that was maybe the worst on the New York State network in the entire region at one time, $7 million, and that's now our new entrance with the roundabout. North Margaret, I credit this council for, you know, a bold decision to do a road diet. We've got a new bridge at Scomotion Creek on the north entrance and our neighbors to the north. A new road diet and resurfacing on North Margaret. South Catherine, another entrance to the city. $5 million in a reconstruction there. Also a connection to the county airport and important industries, Bombardier and others. And as well as some important streets around the college. Beekman Street, if you recall, was in horrible shape. That now has been reconstructed with bike lanes. Our very own entrance right here at Upper Bridge Street, which is the you know, a profound entrance to our downtown business district where we have the outdoor cafes and the clock and the brick pavers and granite curb and such. So, you know, when you talk about the entrances to the city, you talk about the main roads and the arterial roads, I think if you really take a hard look in the last 5+ years, you'll find that there's been a tremendous amount. Upper Cornelia Street was paved from the signal by Walgreens down to Prospect. Prospect work has been done. You know, Ruber through the college is in reasonably good shape. So, I could go on, but yeah,
Definitely.
obviously we have a plan, we're not
No,
just
definitely.
throwing darts,
And-
I know.
Yeah.
and I assume that you go around in the spring, because,
Fall.
the winter itself, God only knows what it's gonna bring and what it's gonna tear up with the roads. So you just travel every single road in the spring and with
Yes.
Public Works, and then
We
you
do
have a bunch of
engineering department.
criteria too, that you do a rating on, right?
Yeah, with our 3-part criteria we use, rather than the DOT standard 1-part criteria, we use a 3-part weighted criteria that factors in the volume and traffic from
Yeah.
arterials versus. Yes, that's exactly what we do. In a block by block, if you notice, the breakdown is basically
Yeah.
a block by block. So all 66 miles, takes a little while, that's what
Yeah.
we do.
The $15,000, Kevin, that's being spent on the borings, those are borings for streets for next year? Is that my
Yes.
understanding?
Yeah, we try to get a year ahead, same as survey.
So anything on the sheet for 2017, borings are done on all those streets or just where there'd be major reconstruction?
Yes, no, generally speaking, for virtually any street, we want to know what we're worth. So if we're, even if you're doing a milling, because a lot of times, if what you have left is so thin that you can't mill it without being down to dirt, then you really want to know that. Or if you've got a good 6 or 8 inches, then you really want to know that. So then you get a sense for how much can we mill, to hit the desired goals of slope and drainage and so forth. Also, if you're using other tools in the toolbox, like a cold in place recycling, a hot mix recycling, a mill-in or just an overlay reconstruction. So pretty much any street. Also depending, the number of depths, depending on the nature of the street and what we know and don't know. If we're doing a lot of utility work, we'll go deeper. We want to know where bedrock is. Do some shallow cores versus some deeper borings.
Does anybody have any other questions for me?
Just one more question. On the old base marina, FEMA money that was secured, correct? It's for the shoring up of the roadway down to the old marina. I know the trees were cleared.
Yes.
Is that, where are we at
Ready
with
for
that?
bid very, very soon. In fact, I would have liked it out to bid by now, but I would say definitely should be sometime this month. We'll be putting that out to bid with, of course, allowing the construction into next year. Although that's probably good winter work too. I think most of that work, driving sheet piles, they don't care if it's frost or not. So I think that's probably the guy Sevenson, the guys driving all that sheet pile on the NICEX site, the ones who are doing our Saranac Street Bridge, have expressed an interest in doing that in the winter. That'd be good work for them. So, but yes, that's forthcoming.
All right.
soon.
Thank you.
Now that you brought it up, what's going on with the Saranac Street Bridge?
September 8th, come watch the show. We're supposed to take down the first half. The contract's in place, we've had the reconstruction meeting, they've got their asbestos contractor on board, they're already pulling out decking, they're preparing for removing the first half of the bridge, they'll put sheet piling around the other side of the center pier, be able to pull the whole center pier out right now, and when they switch over, what they'll do is they'll actually switch the river from the side it's on now over to the other side to pull out the center pier with sheet piling around, the other side of the pier to get at it. So the first half should come down September 8th, the second half, I think, September 23rd or 15th or 23rd. So it's on schedule. And, yeah.
Gee, the Crown Point Bridge came down in about 3 seconds.
I'm all for, if somebody wants to drive through there with a large, freight or something.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be okay with me.
All right.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want us to know?
you know, the projects you're aware of moving forward, City Hall windows, and the Saranac River Trail, and the railroad question came up too, the pedestrian crossings.
Yeah,
Yeah.
particularly, over on Boynton,
It's a problem.
yeah.
It's a real problem. We don't, unfortunately, get the support from DOT that we would like to and that we need, and that we used to. A gentleman by the name of Dan Kelly retired, and he was head of their railroad division, Division 7. They never replaced him. Dan was excellent. We established a project over 5 years ago. We, in concert with the railroad, and we actually had a number of meetings, including a walk around with the railroad, with DOT, and with the city. It's really a railroad responsibility under state regulations to make proper at-grade rail crossings. The railroad is overwhelmed with a list of things to do and balks at spending money, and they oftentimes get help from the state to do so, and that's when they usually tend to get motivated. We went around and did an assessment of all the, I think, 7 at-grade rail crossings, the worst being the Miller Street to Lloyd. And of course, so that would, I would be the top priority. There's a series of violations. If you critique that, you know,
Yeah,
they call that the longest at-grade crossing.
right.
I think in Region 7, if not possibly the
But,
state.
and like with Boynton, there is no transition area, there's like a dirt path that people walk. I mean, it's mounded, and we have no recourse. I mean, if we even look at our ADA planning.
Compliant. I think there's, what we can do is we can send a correspondence of non-compliance. You know, we can do an assessment and send it to the railroad and ask them, and, you know, and copy the state DOT and let them know that we view this as a non-compliant, a danger, a hazard, public safety hazard, and, you know, and request their assistance in correcting that.
And that all has an impact on the quiet zone designation, because the crossings are such, I don't know how you would characterize the rating, I guess, potential danger.
Right.
That they won't let you have a quiet zone until some of these things are fixed. And one of the things at Boynton is, proper pedestrian crossing. Miller is still the,
Green Street's another.
yeah.
And by the way, our friend Dan Kelly, who retired, Dan was instrumental in converting that to from a private crossing that was formerly considered private on a city parcel, as opposed to public, in other words, on a public highway. And Dan was instrumental in calling for a hearing where a judge ruled that that was indeed a public crossing, and he had to pull out deeds going back 100 years to prove that, and was successful in doing so. It's kind of a big deal, because what that does is it makes that eligible for state funding to prompt the railroad to do it. And Green Street's another one where it's, you know, you can see the pedestrian activity, just like Boynton, you see a boat path there.
Yeah,
You know there's a lot of pedestrian travel, and it doesn't meet. Margaret Street's another one, because it crosses at an angle, and those pedestrian crossings have to be at a 90-degree angle. A wheelchair is prone to, if you cross a wheelchair at an angle, you slip in that track and you can knock it out.
right, right.
And the whistle starts blowing, and the train's coming, and you're in a wheelchair, and that can be very dangerous. That's another one. So it is a problem. It really is. It's not compliant, you're right. It's potentially dangerous.
Well, if we can at least send them a strongly worded letter.
Absolutely.
Dean's getting good at those.
He's quite good. So,
Anybody have any other questions? Kevin? Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, Kevin.
Joe?
Who, me?
I feel like I'm calling people in the principal's office.
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
Yes.
Can you talk to us about the problems that we're having with the Stork Drive Tavern?
Well, I'm not sure how much of it I can talk about.
Well, I mean, in general, you did send an email or not? Did you send an email that you sent to Mike? You sent an email to Mike, right, about?
Yes.
About the structures. The rest of it is active investigation and due process is being followed. I mean, Joe's comments about the fact that there are 3 accessory structures on the property, at least 2 of which violate the setback rules, and indicated that there's really 2 solutions to that. They can be removed. He can request a variance to see if they can be kept. That's in process. Same thing's really true for, any of the other investigative things that we're talking about. So, the answer right now is there are no conclusions, but it is an active investigation that's subject to due process and it's undergoing. We had a meeting with Dean the other day to really talk about, how much of the detail of this should be made public, and that really was the sum of it.
Okay.
Yes, I'm working with Dean to make sure we address everything that seems to be under my jurisdiction. I feel like we're proceeding exactly like we should, and I'm confident that it's going to be resolved. They're cooperating.
Okay. Thank you.
If I may, one of the things that you may recall, and I forget the gentleman's name who came here with a very long list of code violations, sections of code, and a lot of those dealt with recreational facilities, which are really primary purpose recreational facilities, like commercial recreational facilities. Things like a horseshoe pit in the backyard aren't covered by that, and so that was really kind of, I think they were looking for something that they could apply, but that did not seem to be applicable to this situation. So that's why some of those code references that he gave about recreational facilities, they don't apply, and that was the other reason that we had Dean in the room to really clarify those things. And Joe and Dean have been corresponding a lot to cover those things.
Well, I just want to say I appreciate you working so hard on that, Joe. That has been a problem since the last time I was on the city council. People have complained about that establishment, so I'm glad to see that we've actually, taken the bull by the horns now, and we're going to do something about it. And I think the people who live on Elizabeth Street in particular, near that facility, are pleased about what's taking place also. So thank you.
Welcome.
Thanks, Joe.
That's it?
Unless you've got something for us.
I have
Oh,
not.
wait,
Mike's
Mike's
got
got-
44 Waterhouse Street was sold at auction, I think.
Yes.
And have they applied for the proper permits to repair and refurbish that property? The new owners?
I don't believe I have a permit for that property yet. Are you aware of work that's been going on there?
No, I'm not.
Okay. No, we were in contact with her initially because she cleaned out the inside and created quite a mess outside, and we had to work with Public Works and her to resolve this, and so we've got her contact information. She seems like an all right person, and I would expect that we would get permits as we should.
Okay. I'm just gonna round back with the neighbors and see if they're okay with the current status of the place, and if,
Sure. And feel
They
free to
have
have
any-
them contact me if they have any questions.
sure. Okay, thank you.
Did you have some?
I got nothing.
I think Rochelle said something about sidewalks on the
Yes, there
base.
was a question of sidewalks.
There's 2 of them that we're actively pursuing right now that we've cited as not being compliant. Many of the other ones were prior to, me being the supervisor of this department, but also, when we inherited this, so the last couple of years, we've got a good handle on this, and I feel like we're addressing everything as it should. Some of the pictures and references that have come up were many years ago, and I personally can't speak to them. But I can tell you that 2 of them we're actively pursuing.
Are sidewalks yours? I thought
City
we had the
public
conversation
sidewalks?
from here in is yours, from here to the street is theirs.
That's pretty typical, but under the scope of a construction permit, lots of times these city issues come up. So we're there and try and address that at that time. But in general, city sidewalks are not really my department.
I think in the general sense, if the planning board, for example, prescribes a specific thing that needs to happen on the site, and that doesn't happen, Joe ultimately has the authority to issue a certificate of occupancy. That's one of the factors that he can consider.
Yeah, or if a sidewalk's broken during construction, that's
Right.
something that we address, or they don't, they put the driveway in such a way that the sidewalk is not continuous through it, that sort of thing.
Well, most of them aren't continuous, are they? The new ones going up?
The new ones are.
I saw one yesterday, it didn't look it, that must be.
We've
going
been,
up.
we've been
It's probably one of the 2.
We've been consistent on
I
this.
know them dearly.
For the last couple of years, we've been very consistent on that, and we've got one right now who's, that's one of the ones that we're pursuing.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Jay.
Mike, is there anything you want to tell us? Educate us.
Aren't you supposed to do this though, Mike?
Because he's on video.
We'll give you a quick update. Biggest thing that went on recently was the asbestos water line testing. We had a specialty contractor in August 30th. We tested all of Maryland Road, Main Road, Kentucky, and Nevada Oval, which constitute about 2.2 miles, which the best they've ever done in a day is a little less than a mile, so that was by far the most they've covered. So we've got our bang for a buck as far as getting a baseline of what we have for pipe out there. The results will be back in 2 to 3 weeks. We'll have a formal written report, and it'll give us a good idea of the effective life that's left in the pipe and where we stand with that. Also ongoing, the fire department's flushing in other areas of the city. We have data loggers on in the Lake Country Village area. Daily, we take 52,000 readings of pressure fluctuations. Averaging spikes about 20 pounds when they flush a hydrant. It's not out of the ordinary, but we're looking for any high flows, so we're talking the filtration plant. We had a couple anomalies over the weekend. I think a 30 and a 40-minute high flow period on Saturday morning. Saturday morning. We're trying to identify where that's coming from, but looking for anything that could put undue stress under our pipe out there. But like I said, until we get the report back, we won't really know for sure.
Yeah, but we haven't had a break in a while.
Yes, that's correct.
If the phones start to ring right now,
Okay, that was.
The other thing that goes along with that is there's several large asphalt and curb repairs that need to happen. We have procured the services, or actually, I think, a purchase order has been written for a subcontractor to come in and take care of that for us, start the week of the 12th.
you're talking about like the major area.
The
you're
major
talking about
areas,
Kansas
yes,
and
major
New York.
excavations where we can't do it with our own forces that require a paving machine and large radius curb.
Does anybody have any questions for Mike or Mike?
Yeah, I do. Well, I just, this is brought up to me again today down at Wilcox Dock. I know last year during the winter, we moved all our marina docks into that area in that little bay. It's just another concern that some fishermen have, along with the fence being there. And they asked me if there's anywhere else that you can put those docks. I said I didn't think so. We looked all over the place, and one of the guys says, that's where we get all the perch in the winter and all the summer. So it does hinder that, but I just told them I'd mention it to you and ask if there's any other spots.
We actually did take some time back when we purchased the docks. I actually contacted Lake Champlain Transportation,
Okay.
brought their people over because they're familiar with finding safe harbor for a lot of their, whether it's barges or ferry boats or what have you in the wintertime. And we looked at several sites throughout the city, and that's the site that we came up most comfortable to leave that type of investment in the water. We really, and with the water levels currently, there was an option maybe behind the plan, but we're really shallow right now. I don't know, we're scheduled for November or October 15th, I think, is a shutdown of the marina. The 18th, we'll start dismantling. And I don't think the water's coming up, so I don't see many options.
Now, the long-term plan is once wave attenuating docks are part of this, to collapse them right where they are, is that?
I believe that would be more of a cabin plan, but I think what I heard from the doctors is we're pulling fingers on one side, and they will collapse upon each other, and the wave attenuator dock will be pulled in, and will basically provide safe harbor in place.
So Wilcox should be a temporary solution?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, and I can just give them an answer that it's in the progress, and hopefully it'll be done.
Is that correct? Is
I think
that,
we have to have some more discussion before we can confirm that. But that's the hope, is that we'll be able to leave them right there by the marina.
Right. Okay.
I don't know if, we have to be careful that wave attenuation dock is very expensive. And so we have to be very careful that we're not putting it in a position where it might be vulnerable to damage.
I got you.
And then also, unfortunately for the fishermen, if you haven't noticed already, the barges have moved in, so they're taking up a good portion of, I think there's a 90-footer and a 60-footer there right now.
Yeah.
For the guys that are doing work on the lake, so I mean.
Yeah, I asked the mayor about that last night, and now maybe I misunderstood, but is it still gonna continue to be there?
that's a good question, and let me make a report on that if you wouldn't mind.
Well, I would, that's,
So we were approached by the company, a subcontractor, or a contractor for the electrical line that's running between New York and Vermont, about using Wilcox Dock as a staging area. And they were talking about typically paying somewhere between $5,000 and $10,000 a month for that privilege. So that got us very excited. Understanding, of course, that the dock belongs to the Canal Corp, and that wouldn't be money that we would get, but that they would be able to get some, serious improvements to the dock itself as a result. So we expressed our interest to the Canal Corp based on that expectation. Well, the Canal Corporation has some interesting rules, so that all they can charge them is about $1,000. And I think that's $1,000 for the whole period. And the only use that they can have for that is to do inspections and the like. So we sent the contractor a letter this morning. Oh, I'm sorry. The piece I forgot to tell you is that while the Canal Corporation is the entity that would make the arrangement with the company to use it, they need a letter of either concurrence or opposition from us. And so we sent the contractor a letter and basically said what I just said, that our enthusiasm was based on expecting that this temporary diversion of this would result in an improvement to the space in perpetuity. And that if we didn't see it, then we were going to write a letter of dissent, and that means that it's over. As of 4 o'clock, we had not heard back from them. So that's as much as I know right now.
because
Yeah, I agree. I mean, listen, I don't like using up a dock space like that, but boy, if there was some real public benefit to it, that's a different story. It doesn't appear, I mean, the only public benefit that would arise from this is having a new cable from New York to Vermont really does benefit us. A few years back, I was sitting in for the mayor one day, and it was in the late fall, early winter, and they were working on the primary line that feeds electricity to us, and the secondary line went down. And all we had for the weekend was the line from Vermont, and its capacity was not, there was a potential we were going to stress it out. And so it's a valuable line for us, and increasing its capacity is good for us. It strengthens the grid considerably. But, taking away the dock for as much as 14 months without really any benefit other than trimming a few trees is not really quid pro quo as far as I can see.
And I agree with you 100%.
I've got a question. Is there any update on the marina restrooms?
Well, we actually did do some camera work. We gave a report, or we gave the video to the engineer. For review. We've looked at some potential options. We haven't had any reoccurrences. So we're sort of riding out for the season, where I think we're going to assess it in the season, is that correct? Yeah.
Now, at this point, there is one bathroom that's not in use, so.
One stall.
Yeah.
Only one not in
One
use?
stall, yes.
Oh,
Closest to
okay. So then the plan is to figure it out over winter and fix it before the season, hopefully? Do we know if any public awareness campaign, were any of the voters sent anything, do we know? Or anybody like, we're sorry for the inconvenience and we're working on it and, we're hoping to have it resolved in the spring?
None that we're aware of.
Probably more Steve's question.
Steve Peters would probably have done that.
Okay. Thank you.
Chad.
Thanks.
Thanks, Mike.
John, do you have anything for us?
What's the specific, you just have questions on things that are going on?
I just have a question about the gentleman that came in, whose property buried is right up against the dam, about fences and security and things.
Did end up speaking to him and told him that, we've got a lot of property out there. We patrol it here and there. We mostly rely on people calling and letting us know when there's a problem. DPW is going to go out and check the gates and see if they can maybe put some piles of dirt around the gates if people are going around it. But with all the property we have, if you're on foot or on a four-wheeler, there's really no way to keep people out. So our policy is you're not allowed to trespass. If we hear complaints of people trespassing, we respond to it. But short of that, there's not a whole lot we can do. He seemed to understand. We also offered if there was anything that we felt he could do to help, he'd be willing to do it. So.
Did you mention that any additional signage or anything? Is that an option?
If it turns out that we don't have enough no trespassing signs, then we'll post the property more further.
And thanks for talking to me. Sure. Appreciate it.
Does anyone else here have something they want to address the council with? Chief or chief?
I'll just have go ahead. I just had a question for Richard, so go ahead.
Chief Richard?
Chief
Chief Desi.
They're all chiefs. Every one of them's a chief.
On the expenditure, the Kent Lord House, use of grounds for Battle of Plattsburgh, $5,000. Is this the second year we've spent that? 5,000?
That's a good question.
Yes.
I think it is.
Now that
It's something
we
that
do.
was built in April, and we're just paying for it now because of the VOP coming up, next week?
How was that price determined? And who determined
idea.
the price?
Don't have an idea.
That would have been a negotiation. It may be one that we inherited. It may not be. I think we'll have to ask Sandra that question.
Yeah, she's
To
got
get
the
the
details
specific
on
on that.
Okay, and that's, I would think that's for the encampment and all.
That's right, yes.
Just that question, thank you.
Okay.
Does anybody have any other questions for any of the managers here or the chiefs?
No. Chief was gonna say something.
Just technologists is back, and we're gonna have increased patrols.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Increased calls up that way and fire calls up that way, I notice. But that's with the,
We're getting ready to develop.
Getting ready for battle in Plattsburgh. Yep.
And just for the chief, I've heard from some folks downtown that they've been seeing more patrolmen on foot, and they're really happy to see that they're kind of moving around, walking around, taking different quadrants, and thank you.
Marine had insurance inspection Tuesday morning, 10 o'clock. Mike and Mike are gonna take a peek through. Our new carrier requested to see the site for the operation, of course, it's all station.
Okay. Anything else? Do you have anything else, Mayor?
I have nothing else.
All right, thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
later guys, girls.
Of the angle, everything.